And of course, the only work that can't be exported is the work that Kevin makes in Enfield, the cockpits. And we believe that the reason they've set up this other company is because they want to make those companies and a new subsidiary of Visteon Corporation all perfectly legal. All perfectly legal to have Steve Gorn's life raft, where he can put his pension into another company and dump the pension of those Visteon workers at this stage. A word of warning to Ford as well. The national officers of the trade union believe that Ford have an exit strategy in the UK. That's why there's redundancies in Slanton. That's why the new transit hasn't gone to Slanton, by the way, which will affect most of the Ford plants in the UK. But don't tell me that Ford are not thinking about administration somewhere along the line. There is an £140 million deficit in the Visteon pension fund. We believe there is a deficit in the Ford pension fund of £1 billion. £1 billion. Under government law, they have to repay every year something like 10% of that deficit back. Is it a cheap and easy way to dump that deficit at this stage? And therefore, quite rightly, that action is going to be taken effect. But I believe, perhaps not for the Commons to say, I'll say it. This union, our union, Unite, should be leading this battle from the front, openly, officially, on the front foot in this particular struggle. There should be no more nod-and-a-wink trade unionism as far as this trade union is concerned. No more, yeah boys, you go and take our action in that way. Our leadership should be out openly saying that they support the action to draw forward into this. I've had 3 repudiation letters of this union over the last few years. It is an absolute scandal that the union is repudiating the action that has taken place so far, including the ongoing Belfast occupation. 2 years ago, I moved a motion at T&G conference that the union should cease issuing any more repudiation letters and should take on the anti-trade union laws. Our leadership, Woodley and Simpson, should openly commit the union to supporting, defending and organising to build the resistance of the Visteon workers. To do with it, all the confusion that took place in Belfast earlier this week, when they weren't sure if the union was going to come out openly and support the legal action to continue the occupation in that way. Let's take away all the confusion. Let's take away all the misunderstandings. Let's have leaders who lead from the front. Don't leave it to just the shop stewards or rank-and-file workers, but give those workers the confidence to resist, even if it's unofficial and illegal in this way. Let's stop pussyfooting around. Let's go on the front foot and take the action at this particular time, in this particular battle at this time. That's what these workers deserve in this particular battle. And I tell you what will be a great start, a fantastic start, is to have Woodley and Simpson in the Belfast occupation, Woodley and Simpson on the picket line in Basildon, Woodley and Simpson on the picket line in Enfield, and if there's a picket line in Basildon, in Bridgend and Dagenham, Woodley and Simpson on a picket line in Bridgend and Dagenham and Southampton and Aylwood in this battle to make sure these workers have their victory at this stage. Rather than go on the defensive, if the funds of the union are threatened because of this action, the solution is simple to me. It's staring the union in the face. The millions and millions of pounds that Unite gives, £13 million since Brown has been elected has been appointed then as a Prime Minister in this country. £13 million. If one steward is touched in Ford for backing the Visteon workers, 1 penny is touched by Ford for taking this action, then why do they phone up Brown tonight and say you will not have 1 more penny of our union to fund your labour? Would that make Brown sit up and think what could happen? And of course, if any stewards in Ford are affected, are threatened, are disciplined because they support the Visteon workers, simple. Then you call all the Ford plants out to support those Ford workers who take that action in that way. Only in Brown's Britain, only in a new Labour Britain, can workers be criminalised, serve legal papers, threatened with jail for fighting fraudulent employers, but the boss is allowed to go insolvent legally, dump workers into poverty and pensioners into uncertainty, and still legally operate a few miles up the road. That's possible in Brown's Britain. Isn't it time that this union, and by the way, what's the lesson from this dispute is, why are we funding New Labour? Why haven't we got a new party that represents ordinary workers in these particular battles? And that is why, by the way, incidentally, that I am proud to stand as a candidate in the No to EU slate in this European election. And let's hope, by the way, that is just one stage in us launching a new party that working class people like these workers can have fighting for them, not be curtailed, not be hamstrung because of their support for New Labour at that time. Comrades, I'll finish on this. We have an immediate issue to fight for these plants. And by the way, to fight for their jobs first of all. To fight to keep these plants open, or for the jobs in Fords, for the workers able to keep the plants open. But at least, at the very least, Ford Blue Book redundancy terms for these workers be treated correctly at this time. And but the union officers themselves think that Ford has an exit strategy in the UK. 52,000 Ford workers in the UK in 2000, less than 14,000 workers in the UK now, and 1,000 redundancies on the table in Southampton and staff locations. If Ford can't step in, by the way, let's open the books and see if Ford can step into this particular battle. But if Ford can't step in, these plants should be nationalised and these workers' jobs should be saved at this time. You know, they saved the banks. It's all that now that they saved the banks. All we did was nationalise the risk. All we did was nationalise toxic assets. Why can't we nationalise these companies to save these jobs and save these skills for now and future generations? Just like all companies that threaten large-scale redundancies or closures should be nationalised under workers' control. Rather than throw government money at these companies for them to make green cars that probably most workers can't afford to buy, why can't we nationalise them for them to invest in public transport or cars that they can afford to buy at this stage? Comrades, the car industry is a massive industry in the British economy. 800,000 workers either work in it or rely on it directly or indirectly in that way. It's an industry and it is a workforce that cannot be allowed to die in Britain. This is an emergency situation. The worst recession for 60 years. It needs emergency measures to save this industry and, if necessary, to nationalise it in that way, to keep those skills as far as these workers are concerned. That is why we need a socialist plan of production, so that we have a system of making sure that we manufacture what people need in this country, what society needs in that way, and keeps these workers employed in the industry in that way. Comrades, there's no secret I'm a member of the Socialist Party. The comrades know that. I think there's an advantage of being in a party like a Socialist Party. You're not on your own. You can draw experience from comrades in similar positions, discuss some of these issues out in that way. I think it gives you an advantage to stand up to the arguments used by some of our full-time officials at times, and I think obviously there's an advantage in stewards talking to each other in that way as well. I think at times are changing. I think we have shown this year that workers are prepared to fight for their jobs, fight for their communities, and fight for a future. The Lindsay Oil Refinery strike, what a beacon and an inspiration that particular dispute was. It showed it's possible for rank and file workers to take unofficial action and defeat the laws and the statute that it was thought impossible to defeat just a couple of months ago. And these comrades, possible to stand up when your backs are against the wall, when everything is lost, and drag these multinational companies to the table. They are dragged to the table. Now we need to drag a victory out of them. Thank you very much.